right. Hello, my name is Angela Warburton. I'm a practitioner of traditional Chinese medicine, and I'm here today to talk a little bit about what Chinese medicine is, how it works, how it evolved, and some of the key principles of the foundations of Chinese medicine. So we're going to go through the sort of the evolution of it. I'll get into some specifics. We'll talk a little bit about we have to sort of lay the foundation, and then I'll go into how we diagnose, what people look for, how we put it all together, and then we'll also talk. I'll also talk a bit about things like the components of Chinese medicine, the acupuncture, the nutrition, and all of that as well. I have a passion for this medicine. I sort of evolved. My own sort of journey evolved from having very, very, very curious in health and wellness, but then also through my own health issues. So I'm quite passionate about spreading this to people, this sort of explaining how it works and opening people's minds to a different sort of idea about the body and medicine and healing. So Chinese medicine in its essence is about balance. So it's not just about a very precarious balance, but this harmonious balance. We say health is more than just an absence of disease. So what we want to do is we want to health our bodies to be healthy. We want to feel vital. We want to feel that we have enough energy, that we sleep well, that our relationships are good. Everything in Chinese medicine is related to each other. Everything is relevant, and everything affects our well-being. So I think if you talk to anyone, they'll know if they've had a breakup, or they've had a really stressful time, or if they've lived in really hard times or something like that. That affects their whole being. So not only physically, but all mentally, and also mentally, emotionally. So Chinese medicine it really evolved from observation. So it really evolved from watching people in their natural environment, seeing what was showing up in their body, and then seeking to understand what the imbalance or what was needed to heal. So in ancient times, it was actually forbidden to cut into the body, so people had to figure out another way of diagnosing. And so it's really through observation, through listening, through asking questions to people, and then to palpate the body that they were able to gather the information to notice what was going on. So we use a lot of that in diagnosing. So the moment someone walks into the room, we're going to be observing what's going on. What do they, what does their voice sound like? Is it really booming, or is it soft? Does it sound like there's a little bit of congestion? What's the color of their skin? Is it sort of, do they have fresh red color in their cheeks? Are they too red? Are they very pale? All of that's going to be giving information, as well as mental states, as well as taking the pulses and observing the body in general. And I always say to people, like, no one knows your body as well as you do. So as a practitioner, we're looking to find out information from you as well, because all those little things that you might think aren't related, or just, oh, they're just me, they are actually signs of where the body is off balance. I always say your body's talking all the time. What we want to do is understand what it's saying, and catch it when it's talking, not when it's screaming. And then we bring balance back. So the whole idea of Chinese medicine is it's based on the idea of prevention. So prevention is the best medicine. There's actually a saying that the best doctors have no patience, because we've taught everyone how to take care of themselves, and they're preventing any disease from happening. And basically being able to recognize those signs is the best sign of prevention. We say pain, pain in so much of our medicine now is based on reduction or removal of pain, but pain is just a messenger. So pain's not the problem. Pain is just giving us an idea. It's a calling to make some sort of change. It's like a red flag. And then if we try to just mask the pain or get rid of the pain, we're actually just shooting the messenger. So we're using the pain, the body sensations, all of that to understand what the deeper imbalance is. So we look at the body more like an ecosystem than we do like a machine. Excuse me. So instead, if you've got something wrong with the heart, it's not just focused on the heart, it's looking at the whole system, knowing that everything is affecting and affects everything else. So again, our emotions, our sleep, our stress levels, our diet, our genetics, everything comes into play to that internal balance and that well-being. So when we're treating, we want to treat the whole body. We want to treat the whole person. So yeah, again, that idea of nothing stands alone. Everything's connected in Chinese medicine, and everything not only in our body, but also our environment. So everything from, I also often will get people, they've moved from Arizona to say Vancouver in Canada, which is a very, very dry climate to a very, very damp and moist climate. So those can have a huge impact on someone's well-being. Also where we live, if we live in a basement of a house and it's really, really damp and dark, that's going to have an impact as well. And, you know, our workload, how we handle stress, all of that as well. And so all aspects of a person are essential to our well-being. So in essence, Chinese medicine is very holistic. It's very preventative. So we're looking at that idea of that, you know, not trying to go to a doctor because you're sick, but really trying to go to maintain your health. It's very natural. So it uses our natural healing forces to bring balance back to the body. So it's based on using what we can do within our daily life, so how we eat, how we live, and then we'll use herbal medicine, so using nature to bring that balance back or to heal the body as well. The Chinese medicine is very customized to the individual, so no two people are treated the same way. They are the disease systems or the way the disease presents is going to be different for each person. So we have to treat them differently. So there's a saying, one pattern, many diseases, one disease, many patterns. So what that means is there can be a pattern that we see in the body, but how that manifests in each individual is going to be different. And there can be one disease, but there are many patterns to that. So for example, if someone, I work in cancer often, and there can be, you know, 5 people that come in with breast cancer, but each of those women have a very different pattern. So when I'm treating them, I have to take that into account and treat them in a very different way. Let's see. So what I'm going to do, I think, now is run through the basic principles and some of the foundations in Chinese medicine to sort of open the mind. I think a lot of people have heard of some of these, but it's about understanding them on a deeper level and then putting them all together that allows us to get this whole picture of the body. So we'll go through some of the foundational concepts and then sort of evolve from there to how it looks in someone who's well or not well. Okay, so we're going to talk, one of the foundations of Chinese medicine is this idea of yin and yang. So it is one of the oldest thoughts of this idea of these two opposites that exist in the world. The earliest references to yin and yang is 700 BC, and it really underlies the sort of this idea of balance, so the really key concept in Chinese medicine. So in ancient Chinese culture, they believed that everything, absolutely everything, is this interplay between these two opposites, that nothing stands alone, that they are constantly evolving and shifting from one until the other, and that this is a key component to this idea of balance. So they're really simplistic in some ways, in the sense that we think of hot, cold, day, night, active, passive, but it is key to how we live and how we understand the body and where imbalance will show up. So in the key sort of parts of yin and yang are that they are opposite. So they can only be spoken of in relationship to the other. So they're never static and they're always moving. So that idea would be, if we just had day all the time, if we didn't have night to contrast it with, we wouldn't really have, day would mean nothing. It would just be the same all the time. Hot is only relative to cold. And you can have a spectrum of this. So we have the furthest side of cold would be ice, and steam would be the furthest side of hot. But then you could have water and steam, and so one would be more yin and one would be more yang. So it's an ever-changing balance that things are constantly shifting. They're interdependent. They cannot, so that idea that they cannot exist without the other. They're constantly transforming into the other. So that idea that it's always darkest before the dawn. So just when we get the last bit of the highest point of yin, it's going to start transforming into yang. And so that's when we look at the yin-yang symbol, that we can see that constant moving and things are that flow. So there's there's normally this harmonious balance. So things are going to naturally shift from one into the other. So this idea that, night will turn into day and day will turn into night, and it's just this gentle kind of transition. But what we can see sometimes is that yin and yang can get out of balance in the body. And so there's four ways that yin and yang can get out of balance. So if we have this balance where everything's running smoothly, but then sometimes yin can be too much. So we're going to get too much of yin, but the yang is normal. So if in this case, we would see excess symptoms. So yin might be cold. So someone who's got an excess of yin would be too cold. Opposite would be yang. And if yang is too high, it's got a lot of, say, heat symptoms. So that you get a lot of excess heat, someone who's hot all the time. And then you can have the other imbalance you can see is that one is deficient, so it doesn't have enough. So if yang is totally fine, but yin is depleted, what you're going to see is a bit more of the yang symptoms because the yin isn't there to balance it out. So in the body, how that might show up would be, when we say yin deficient, it might be someone who has flushes of heat or night sweats, or not hot all the time, but just in these waves of heat. And the same way that if the yang is deficient, then we're going to get more cold signs, but not that excess cold, but just sort of cold signs, maybe cold feet, or maybe parts of the body that are cold. So that's how they can show up as an imbalance. And the idea too that this change from one to the other, this change from yin to yang, is not a random event. This is something that happens only when the time is right. So it's like we cannot, spring happens when winter is finished. So we can't force a seed to grow, we can't force things, but the idea that when the time is right, things are going to shift. And so some of the characteristics that we might see that when we describe yin or yang, someone put it once like, one is more active and one is more passive. So yang is more the function or the energy that's required for living, where yin is more the form. So yang is like lives fast and dies young, and yin barely lives but lasts forever. So what we want is that balance. So if you think of it, it could be activity and then rest. So sleep and being awake during the day. So if we're awake constantly, and anyone who's had insomnia knows that that's pretty miserable and not sustainable. So we can't be up and expending our energy all the time. Likewise, we cannot be resting all the time either. So it's that balance between the two that we need. So yang energy tends to be that active, it's heat, it shows up in some warmth, it shows up in the daytime, sun is part of this, it's more, we say an upward moving energy, so it's the things that are up, where yin is more that downward. Yang is more active, and it's more of an aggressive kind of energy, or someone that's proactive. Where yin is more the passive energy, it's more receptive, it shows up in more that feminine energy. It is dark, so shows up in the nighttime. Cold would be the temperature. It shows up in the lower parts of the body, shows up in the earth, and yang would be the heavens, where earth would be the earth. That's sort of ancient times how they'd say it. That yin is more of a stillness, so that passive energy. You think of how the bodies are masculine energy and feminine around procreation. So you have the egg, which is this potential of being, this potential that's of energy that's stored there, but very passive. The egg kind of floats along. And then there's the sperm, which is very, very active. It's about sort of conquering energy. It's going and it's moving. And so that it actually has, it moves to the egg. So it is more choosing where the egg is receiving. And so that we can see how that exists in everyday life. Unfortunately, what I see a lot in our modern culture is that we've placed more value on this yang aspect, or this masculine, or this doing, or this achieving side of things, but we're forgetting that yin aspect. And what we see in a health perspective is people will often burn out. They're trying to make things happen without actually having the time to rest, to go in, to let these ideas as potential. We say the most yin time of the year is the winter, and you think everything goes into hibernation, and seeds need to germinate in that. So come spring, that things can start moving, and come summer, which is the most yang time of the year, we're actually growing fruit and that kind of stuff. So yin and yang can be applied to the seasons. It can be applied to life. So that's spark of life and sort of moving through life as well. When a child has all this energy, and then think of an old age where it's sort of declining again, but where we sort of get that peak of activity followed by that gentle decline that happens in older age. It can also show up in an idea, a creative idea. So we have that spark of an idea, then it slowly grows, and it hits its peak, and then it gently declines. Either the idea is over, or we finish it, or it can go through these, like businesses can go through these different sort of waves of this yin and yang sort of side of things.